the dangers of overtraining, of which there are none. Hit like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. What's up guys, Matt Dashu here from Blue Star Nutraceuticals at the Blue Star Nutraceuticals training facility, and today we're actually going to talk about overtraining, what overtraining is, how you can avoid it, why it hampers your muscle building progress, and some strategies that you can use to make sure that it's not slowing you down on your journey. So let's go get warmed up. I'm just going to go through a typical workout today. We'll get started and we'll get into some details. So overtraining is something I've experienced plenty of times in my training career, mostly because I had no clue about what it was. So one of the things I want to make sure you guys are aware of are some of the signs and symptoms of overtraining, because it can really hamper your training progress. And if you understand what to look for, it's a critical factor in making sure how to avoid some of these issues. I guess an important point is to kind of define like what overtraining could be, because a lot of times people don't know. I didn't know early on in my lifting career either. So a lot of times people wonder, is overtraining lifting too much? Is it lifting too frequently? You know, what are the exact causes of it? You know, it can be a number of different things. Sometimes it can be lifting with too much volume. So that means you can be lifting too frequently, too many sets, too many reps. You could be lifting with too much intensity, or you could be doing something too frequently. So let's say running, for example. Maybe you're training for, you know, a marathon, but you've never really trained for a marathon before, so your body's not conditioned to it. You're not getting adequate recovery, so you're not sleeping enough, you're not eating enough food, and you're not listening to the fact that your body's giving you all these signals through aches and pains, that kind of thing. There's a lot of different ways that you can experience overtraining. It's not really specified down to one thing in particular, outside of your ability to adapt to the stimulus that you're putting on your body. So pay attention to that in terms of, you know, knowing where you're at, knowing where you want to be, and making sure that you're taking steps towards getting there, as opposed to making a giant leap towards getting there and trying to do all of your training all in one. All right guys, I'm gonna bang out a couple more sets of these deadlifts before moving on to my next exercise, and over there we're gonna talk about the reasons for overtraining and then how we avoid overtraining. Easy peasy. All right guys, so we've talked about signs and symptoms. We know that, you know, we're gonna be feeling fatigue, potentially depression, not gaining muscle. We might hit plateaus. You might start feeling sick on a regular basis. Those are the types of things that you're gonna be experiencing if you're overtraining. But some of the reasons why. So I talked a little bit about different ways that people can do it, but typically as a general rule, some of the main reasons why people end up overtraining, because they're gonna be doing too much volume. And by volume, I mean sets and reps. So as a general rule, it's not a good idea to hammer yourself into the ground on a regular basis. In the next portion, I'm kind of going to go into how many reps and sets you want to be kind of considering in your overall programming. But the next thing would be intensity. So intensity, keep in mind, is not how many burpees can you do until you puke. For what we're talking about right now, it's percentage of 1 rep max. So intensity in that view is going to be more in terms of the effect that it's having on your central nervous system, which basically is your, you know, your brain, your spinal cord, all that type of stuff, and your body's capacity to put out lots of energy before it just burns out. The other things, for example, poor nutrition. If you're not eating well, if you're not leaving yourself enough recovery time by sleeping, or leaving enough time in between workouts, or hitting certain muscle groups, those are going to be big problems as well. So those are some of the things you want to work out for. I'm going to bang out a few more sets of this, and then we go to the next exercise. I'm going to talk about some strategies that you guys can implement to make sure that you don't end up overtraining, because again, you want to build muscle as fast as possible. That's the name of the game. And by overtraining, you might think that you're going to be hitting your goals faster, but you're only going to be slowing yourself down, and you're going to be working yourself closer to getting an injury. And trust me, you will not get bigger and stronger once you get injured. So let's avoid that at all costs. All right guys, now look, I take amino fast during all of my workouts for a number of reasons. Number one, it helps to keep me hydrated. There's a hydration complex in there that's going to be critically important to make sure that I can keep my energy levels up during my workout. Number two, the branched chain amino acids will make sure that I can recover faster in between sets and faster in between workouts. And lastly, the amino fast just tastes great, and it's got slow burn carbs. So lots of energy, great for recovery, tastes great. I love it, and I drink one every workout. Oh yeah. Okay, on to the next. All right guys, so this is gonna sound hokey, but one of the most critical strategies that I ever did to help keep me from overtraining, because I'm one of those neurotic people and I always just want to train as hard as possible all the time, was to keep a training log and a training journal. So you guys should be writing down your sets and reps and all that stuff to begin with, but one of the things that I didn't do for years, even though I was recording what my workouts were, was how I was feeling before, during, and after the workout. Keeping track of that and understanding that your mood is going to be affected by overtraining, your energy level is going to be affected by overtraining, and your training is going to be affected by overtraining. If you keep a log in a journal, it's really easy to make course corrections. If you don't know where you are and you don't know where you're going, you don't know how to get there. And keeping track of things is going to be one of the most important tools that you can do. Now I forgot where I was at. signs and symptoms of getting old. That's what that is. So make sure you keep that training journal, be writing down sets and reps, of course, but also keep track of how you're feeling so that you can make changes if need be. Yeah. Woo. All right, on to the next. Testes. 1, 2, 3. That was good. You can hear me? All right, guys, so the next strategy here that you can employ, this actually works out perfectly with what I've been doing today is, if you've been paying attention, you can see that I'm not going super heavy with any of my sets, and that's because I'm starting a new training block, and I've increased my volume and decreased my intensity. So what I mean by that is I'm gonna be putting in a little bit more work at higher rep ranges with a lower percentage of my 1 rep max. Now, this isn't about going to failure all the time. This is in fact leaving reps in reserve. So one of the key ways to make sure you're avoiding overtraining is by scheduling different training blocks that allow your body to progressively increase in intensity and adapt to those changes without being overloaded all the time. So when I start a new training block, if most of my exercises are going to be sets of 10 to 12 reps, for the first week or two, I'll make sure that I finish my sets off with anywhere from 3 to 5 reps in reserve, which means I could probably still bring out 3 or 5 more reps with that weight if I wanted to push. But the sooner I start pushing into that red line, the sooner I start pushing into that point where I'm going to failure on my compound lifts, the sooner I'm gonna burn out and potentially hit that overtraining phase. So keep that in mind when you're programming out your training blocks or when you're doing your workouts. You don't always have to go to failure on every exercise. And if you're going to be going to failure frequently, stick to doing it on your isolation exercises. So your barbell curls, your tricep extensions, your chest flies, maybe your dumbbell pullovers, your cable pullovers, that type of thing. But avoid doing it all the time on your bigger lifts like your bench presses, your overhead presses, and especially your squats and your deadlifts. If you're training to failure on a regular basis with those exercises, it doesn't matter the volume or intensity. At some point, you're gonna start overtraining and it's probably gonna be pretty quick. So make sure you schedule that out with your training blocks. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. No applause. All these people in the gym and only one person clapping. Do you want me to sing a different song this time? All right, guys, the next 2 strategies I can kind of roll into one here, and that's going to be rest and recovery. So keep in mind when you're doing your workouts that one of the main things that you're trying to do when you're working out is increase protein synthesis. So it's not just a matter about getting strong, but it's about creating that response in your body that's gonna allow you to build muscle as fast as possible. Every time you work out, you're gonna increase protein synthesis for that particular muscle group for about 36 to 48 hours. So hitting a muscle group 4 or 5 times in a week isn't gonna be beneficial for you if your goal is overall muscular development and size. Making sure that you incorporate rest days, at least 2, sometimes 3. You shouldn't be hitting any muscle groups more than 2 to 3 times a week max if your goal is to increase muscle mass. God, I'm so smart sometimes. The other thing I want you to focus on is getting lots of sleep, and I mean good quality sleep. So one of the important things that you can do is to make sure that you're turning off all of your devices about an hour before bed. Any type of blue light source, whether it be your cell phone screen, a laptop screen, a TV screen, just overhead lighting, those things are gonna inhibit your body's ability to produce chemicals essentially that are going to encourage you to go to sleep. So if you're having a hard time sleeping at night, chances are you're spending too much time on some of these devices and you're not releasing these neurotransmitters or these chemicals that are telling you it's time to go to bed. If you stop doing that, I can almost guarantee you're gonna have a great sleep. And if you're still having a tough time, GH Peak is one of my all-time favorite supplements, and that's one of the reasons why. I work hard, I stay up late. A lot of times I'm on my devices late, but if I take one of those supplements before I go to bed, about 45 minutes an hour, I sleep like a baby and it increases my HGH production and I wake up feeling like $1 million. So make sure you incorporate rest and recovery days, make sure you're not training a muscle group too frequently, and make sure you're getting at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night, depending on how hard you're training and what your schedule allows for. All right, guys, and the last strategy here, and this should pretty much go without saying if you're trying to build muscle mass anyways, but make sure that you get proper nutrition. All right, you can't just rely on supplements here. You have to get lots of good whole food, so protein, carbs, and good healthy fats. You should be aiming to get at least 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight if you're lifting to gain mass. You can get away with a little bit less than that, but again, if you're not getting the adequate amount of amino acids that your body needs, not only will you not be able to produce muscle, but you won't be able to produce the right neurotransmitters that help you sleep, that help you have better mood, that help you to work harder, that help you to stay focused. And those things will, over time, really hamper your progress and make sure that you almost guaranteed hit that state of overtraining. If you're sore on a regular basis, you know you're not eating enough protein, you're not resting enough. Good quality carbs is another thing too. So it's not just a matter of having the building blocks for muscle, you also want to make sure that you're getting the right building blocks necessary for hormonal production and the right enzymes so that your body can actually turn these building blocks into what we want them to be turned into. And the last thing then is healthy fats. If you're not getting good, healthy, saturated fats, I've talked about this in other videos, especially for males, you're not gonna be able to produce testosterone. And again, your hormonal system is gonna be a mess. So make sure you're getting at least, I would say 40 to 80 grams of good, healthy, saturated fats every day as well, okay? So proper nutrition is key. If you're sore all the time, if you're tired all the time, I guarantee you're probably not eating enough. All right, guys, that's it for today's video on overtraining. I hope that gives you a little bit more insight into the topic, and I hope that you are able to use those different routines and strategies to help minimize your chance of overtraining. Again, the name of the game here is getting big and getting strong, and if you're overtraining, you're gonna be hampering your progress, and we really don't want that to happen. So if you enjoyed today's video, hit like and subscribe. If there's any questions you have that I didn't answer today, please feel free to write it in the comment section. And other than that, make sure you train hard and stay strong. All right, guys, thank you for joining us for another Blue Star Nutraceuticals training video. And remember, if you want to continue to build muscle and burn fat, we've got awesome content here and here. And if you hit the subscribe button right here, I promise you we'll be putting out 2 videos every single week that'll help you reach your muscle building goals. And remember, we're not just a YouTube channel, we also make award-winning supplements. So no matter what your goal, whether it's to build muscle or burn fat, we've got the supplement for you. So check us out at bluestarnutraceuticals.com. And that's it.